Welcome back, viewers from all over the world, far and near, to another episode of When I Grew Up. Today, we will be learning with Dr. Amanda Alzina Sullivan, one of my most inspiring work colleagues and also closest work and not work, personal friends. Hi, Amanda. You're coming to us from Hawaii today.
Hi, I am. Aloha.
What's the weather there?
Pretty sunny and nice. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, does always sound like paradise there. So Amanda, you are going to start today by telling us about your childhood. And I actually happen to know you also grew up in Hawaii, so we'll learn a little bit about that. And if you happen to remember, maybe you could tell us what you wanted to be when you were growing up.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for having me. This is such an awesome show and just such a cool opportunity. I can't wait to learn more about everyone else that you're interviewing as well. Yes, so I did grow up in Hawaii. I was born on Oahu and I lived here until I was around 12 or 13. And I just recently moved back, maybe less than 6 months ago, less than 5 months ago, moved back here. So it's a really interesting experience to come back as an adult and reflect on my childhood. And I have kind of like a very different life living here now than I did growing up. So that's just like an interesting question for me right now, since I just moved back here. A lot of like memories flooding back from being back in this community. But when I was growing up, there were basically two kind of career paths that I cycled between that I was really interested in, and neither are what I'm doing now, but both have really influenced my life. Basically, I always wanted to do either something with animals or something with acting and theater. And I remember that I think I was in 5th grade. I went to a public school in Hawaii, in Kaneohe at that time. And I got like scouted for a community theater program. But they come and they run like a theater production with the 5th grade at these different elementary schools. And then they pick like 2 people from each school, I guess, to go enter this performing arts program track for free at their center. And that was kind of like the beginning for me. From there, like it really, drama, theater, acting, and also the behind the scenes stuff was a huge part of my life. And then the other thing I always was interested in doing was working with animals. I always loved animals. I always wanted pets. I had pets at different times in my life. Really thought I wanted to be a veterinarian for a while. And then I volunteered when I was, I think, 15. This was after I moved from Hawaii, when I was living in Seattle, at an animal shelter that also had like a vet clinic and an advocacy branch attached to it. And I was like, oh, I actually don't think I can be a vet. I don't really have the stomach for it, but I have the heart for it. I always was interested in working with animals. Like when I was really little, I would like to pretend I was a dog groomer or a cat groomer. That was something I wanted to be. And then I became a vegetarian when I was around 15 as well, when I started volunteering at this animal shelter. And animal advocacy became kind of another big part of my life, and something that I was really interested in, not just in what I ate, but also like in the clothes that I wear, the materials I use, and the products I use. So didn't become a job, but I do have an adopted cat now. So yeah, that was sort of the two areas for me.
That's great. And did you know a lot of vets or dramatists that inspired you when you were growing up?
For vets, no, I didn't. That's why I think I had a very unrealistic conception of what went into it until I was a teenager, and I sort of just became more involved myself through volunteering. Just like the emotional piece of it, I don't think I really realized is so salient for anyone doing medical work, veterinary, or with humans. In terms of theater, like, yes, actually, I had a lot of role models. Because like I mentioned, I was scouted for that program. And that was like very salient for me because I grew up, people think of Hawaii as like a beautiful paradise, just like they think of places like Jamaica and the Bahamas and all these things is a beautiful paradise, and it is. But it's also a place that has huge socioeconomic divide, and most people are not wealthy there. I wasn't. And we grew up like, I lived in like real poverty, not like actual homelessness, riding a bus all night when we were like 5 years old, staying in a 24-hour restaurant, like, cause we had nowhere to go, to like on good times being in shelters or, subsidized housing. Like those were the great years. So, when kids are growing up in that circumstance, you're worried about feeding and clothing them. My family did really prize education, and I think that served me well, like to motivate me the rest of my life. But you're not really going to like extra ballet classes or extra things where you're meeting role models. And so it was really just so crazy that I got picked for this program as somebody who really kind of struggled in school for all the reasons poor kids struggle. I couldn't see the chalkboard because we couldn't afford new glasses. I didn't really have anyone, the extra resources that a lot of like average families did. So through that program, I got so much mentorship, like in elementary school. You're a musician and a singer, so you probably agree, like anything performative, whether you end up doing it professionally or not, it really teaches kids life skills and how to present yourself and how to speak confidently. And that's not something you might typically have if you're just growing up like aggressively poor and you're not confident about your clothes and you don't look like everybody else. And so yeah, I did have a lot of role models, and I think that's why I followed that track for so long. And I had a lot of like female role models, people telling me like, you're good at this. And like, those are powerful words for like a young girl who like really doesn't have a lot else going on.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I want to transition now because I think this is really relevant for the work that you do today. So what we always ask on the show is, what are you doing now that positively impacts members of your community, whatever community means to you, and what motivates you to keep doing it?
Yeah. So what I do now is I work in research and education related to engaging young girls in STEM with hopes of bridging the gender divide. Women are still very underrepresented in the fields that drive innovation in our country. Things like engineering is around 13% female, computer science, 25, 26% female, and these numbers have not really been shifting. And so I work to help bridge that gap, but starting at the early childhood level. It's an interesting question to ask someone, what do you do that makes an impact? We never really know what we do that makes an impact, but we can do things that we hope will be beneficial to people. And all I can do right now is hope. We'll see what happens to them as they grow up and as we follow them along. But what I hope that I'm doing right now is providing resources for parents, educators, and young children to help engage girls, but also all young children in positive experiences with STEM, and to be able to visualize those trajectories for themselves. When I grew up, I never met a single female engineer. I never thought about any of those things. And so I really wasn't until in my 20s that I really became confident in my abilities with regards to math and the sciences. And there's still things that I struggle with my confidence there as well, despite having a PhD and like studying like advanced stats. Like I always have this like inner, 12-year-old that couldn't see the chalkboard when she was in 6th grade. And so she couldn't answer the questions in math class. That's where it comes from. I really hope that I can be making sure that as many girls as possible aren't having those experiences. Now that I'm a mom, I'm also really interested in empowering other moms, that you don't need to be a scientist or an engineer to be a powerful role model. In fact, it's better that you aren't. Your moms are like, I don't think they realize like how impactful their words are and their role modeling is for their young kids. So now I really do try to put out resources for moms, other moms, to know how exactly they can be talking to their kids, girls and boys, in ways that show that females can and are as good at math and science as anyone else. and that they feel like they have the confidence and the resources to encourage their daughters and everyone to succeed in these fields if they want to.
That's beautiful, beautiful sentiment. Very inspiring to me. And I believe that there are more people impacted out there than you may know by your work.